أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا عاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم عبد الله ورسوله. ما بعد. We thank the Almighty Allah for giving us an opportunity to be here. We thank Him for His mercies that He's bestowed upon us. We bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship except the Almighty Allah. We also bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is His servant and His messenger. Whosoever the Almighty Allah guides is really guided, and anybody who goes astray has nobody to blame but themselves. Alhamdulillah. Today is a Saturday, the 21st day of Jumada Thani, 1443 years after the hijrah of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Also corresponds with the 14th day of January 2023. Normally this is Sheikh Hisham's class, and he's not around, and we want to fill the void. But I'll also be traveling tomorrow, so just push the Sirah class to Saturday, inshallah. The last time we spoke on Sirah, we saw the building of the Kaaba from the time of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam to even the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And even after the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, there has been, different buildings of the Kaaba. For example, during the time of Abdullah ibn Zubayr ibn Awwam, they pulled down the Kaaba and then they built it. Then Hajjaj ibn Yusuf came and killed Abdullah ibn Zubayr, and then he rebuilt the Kaaba. So the Kaaba has gone through different stages of rebuilding. And some sources tell us that the first beings to build the Kaaba were the Malaika, the angels. When Almighty Allah told them that He was going to, create a human being on the surface of the earth, and then they had whatever questions they want to ask, the Almighty Allah made them to build the Kaaba. Other narrations say Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, he was the first person to build the Kaaba, but then it was only at its foundational level, not the full Kaaba. So it was Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam who came to, build the whole thing. And when he built it, he didn't have any roof. And Ismail continued, and then Tawheed and Monotheism continued with the people because they were on the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. But then afterwards, there was a man by name Amr ibn Luhay. Even before that, the children of Ismail, the descendants of Ismail, anytime they were traveling, they will pick a stone from Makkah, because Makkah is a holy place, a sacred place. When they are traveling, they will pick a stone from Makkah, and then wherever they went, they will place that stone and they will do tawaf of the stone, same way as they were doing tawaf of what? Of the Kaaba. But as time went on, the ideology changed, that these stones were sacred, let's worship them. So from their good intention of saying, let's pick, a stone from the haram and then take it wherever we are, and then we will just do tawaf of it, the same way we do tawaf of the Kaaba. We do tawaf of the Kaaba not because we worship the Kaaba, but then in terms of it being an order from the Almighty Allah. So that was the idea. And this is the same reason that the people of Noah worshipped the idols. Because the idols that they had, that we know in Surah An-Nur, وَقَالُوا لَا تَذَرُنَّ آلِهَتَكُمْ وَلَا تَذَرُنَّ وَدًّا وَلَا سُوَاءً وَلَا يَغُوثَ وَيَعُوقَ وَنَصْرًا. These 5 names, Wud, Suwa', Yaghuth, Ya'uq, and Nasra, they were pious men, good men. When they died, the people said, in remembering them, let's build statues of them. Let's make statues of them, so that whenever we see those statues, we will remember these people and then we worship Allah more. That was the first idea. Later, it changed that there is no place your dua will be answered except near that statue. So now they go there and then what? They do their dua. Later, it changed that those people answer dua and they ended up worshipping those statues and idols. So anytime idolatry starts, it starts with a good intention. Well, let's pick the stones from the haram, let's bring it to Philadelphia, and then let's do tawaf of it. Later, they worship those stones. So, after being in that situation, there was a man by name Amr ibn Luhay. He went to Syria, and then he met them, worshipping idols. And then he was very fascinated about that. So they gave him an idol called Hubal, a very big stone. And then he brought it to Makkah, and then he placed it in the Kaaba, and they started worshipping those idols. It got to a point whereby almost every home in Makkah had an idol that they worship. Every home. And then they had idols for the seasons. They had idols for everything. If you want to get married, there's a special idol. You go there, you go and slaughter a ram or a goat, and then you dip, you smear the blood of the animal on the idol, and then you get whatever you want. There is a hadith in Sahih Bukhari where Abi Raja al-Ataridi says, in Jahiliyyah, if we are looking for an idol to worship and then we don't get any idol to worship, we'll gather sand, and then we'll get milk from a goat or a sheep, and then mix the milk with the sand, and then form an idol and then worship it. That's how far they got. They got to an extent whereby they were forming idols from dates. You see dates, that tree dates. There is a narration, even though there is an issue with the narration. It's not authentic, but sometimes you use it to give an example that Umar ibn Khattab, sometimes they will find him, he sits down and then he's laughing. And then sometimes they find him crying. They ask him, why do you laugh? You're just sitting there and then you start laughing. He says, I remember in Jahiliyyah, I had an idol from dates. Then I was traveling in the desert, and then it got to a point whereby my food and water was finished. And I remember that my God was from dates. So I brought out that God and I told him, you let me chew your hand, okay? When I go back to Makkah, I will give you a new one. So he broke one hand and then he cleared it. So as he was traveling after some time, the hunger didn't stop. So he pulled out the idol again. He said, you please, my God, let me finish the other hand. When I go back to Makkah, I will give you a new one. He did that until he ate the idol. So he was laughing that if this was really a God, how can you eat a God? But this narration is not authentic. It's not an authentic narration. But it points to the fact that the people of Makkah at that time, due to the idol worship that was there, almost everybody had an idol. And then it became normal. And then they could even slaughter thousands of camels to their idols. So that's why the Prophet Muhammad came and then he said, idol worshipping was wrong. It became a serious problem because it was a business. Because it got to a point whereby it became business. Someone will go and then carve anything out of wood and stone, and then you bring it and then he sets up a business. If you want to go and touch the idol, you pay $5. So it was money making for them. Same way we have now in the world, where people have taken the graves of some shuyukh or awliya as business centers. You go there, it's in Asia, it's in North Africa, it's in West Africa. You find graves of men who hitherto were good men or pious men. When they died, their people just, build things on the graves and then build rooms over the graves, and they became tourist attraction. You pay money before you enter. Sometimes you see those videos, those monies are so huge that they need brooms to sweep the money so that they will collect the money. It's business. So it got to that point that it became so severe in Makkah that they had Almost every corner in Makkah had, one special house, and this guy would say, as we see on, social media charlatans, if you want to make money, come to me. If you want to get married, come to me. If you are married and then you don't have children, come to me. If you want to do this, come to me. It was business. Nothing remained of the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam except something few. Hajj remained, and then Umrah remained, the Tawaf remained, Sa'i between Safa and Marwa remained, and then standing at Arafah remained, and then Muzdalifah remained, and that's it. But even those things, they were mixed up with shirk. For example, the kuffar do not, if they are going to do Tawaf of the Kaaba, they do it naked.
Yeah.
Because they felt that their clothes was from haram, and then the Kaaba, nothing haram must touch the Kaaba. So they do Tawaf naked. And then they did all forms of shirk. Apart from idol worshipping, they developed, the worshipping of the stars. Worshipping of the moon and then the sun and the stars. What we call now horoscopes now. And be very careful about that. These horoscopes, they say you are Sagittarius or you are Aquarius or you are, all of that is shirk, is haram. That's got nothing to do with Islam. If you are born in this month, this is your horoscope. If you are going to get married, you should look for someone whose horoscope meets your horoscope, and this and stuff and that. And then people have banked all their hopes on that. And if you are born in this month, this is your horoscope, it means it is a bad luck. You need to come for them to do something for you. Forget about those. You see them on Facebook, and then it's there. They were worshipping all these idols. Some of them worship the sun. Then fire worship also became a norm for the Arabs. They copied it from the Persians. Then later Judaism also entered into the system. So that's where you find the Jews there around Medina and stuff like that. Because the Jews have read in their books that the last messenger will be born in that area. And because they wanted that last prophet to be a Jew from them, they migrated in numbers to that area so that if the person is born from the Jewish community, he is born. So when the Prophet Muhammad appeared as an Arab, they didn't believe in him. That's the only reason. Because they thought that that last messenger should be what? Should be a Jew. And he was not a Jew, he was an Arab, and it became an issue with them. Then Christianity also came in. So you have Christians of Najran who came to the Prophet Muhammad and then they had a dialogue with him in the Masjid for 3 days. But then the Jewish religion and then the Christian religion didn't gain grounds much within the Arabs, because polytheism, the worship of idols, had become so strong in them that they didn't have time to look at other religions. So the Jewish religion was not pleasant to them. And the other fact was that the Jews didn't want anybody else to join them who was not a Jew. The Jewish religion, Judaism, is a religion that belongs to the Jews. They don't want anybody to join them. The Christian religion too, the Arabs were like, we are worshipping idols. You are also worshipping an idol. So there's no difference. Because if you are worshipping the statue of Jesus Christ, it's the same thing. We also have a Hubal. Hubal is even bigger than your statue. So why should we worry ourselves to leave our big statue and come and take your small statue? So it was not an issue for them. So they didn't. So when the Prophet Muhammad came and then he said, no idol worshipping, it became a huge problem for them. But then, within all this wave of polytheism, of worshipping of idols, worshipping of stones, Judaism, Christianity, there were some men in Makkah who remained on the deen of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. So for our topic for discussion, رِجَالٌ مِّن قُرَيْشٍ لَا يَعْبُدُونَ الْأَصْنَامِ, monotheist men who were there living in polytheist Makkah. Ibn Ishaq narrates a hadith from Asma bint Abi Bakr, where she said that I saw Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufayl. This is one of the men who was not worshipping idols in Makkah. His name is Zayd ibn Amr ibn Nufayl. She said, I saw him, clean on the Kaaba. He was resting his back on the Kaaba like this. And then he was saying, Ya ma'ashara Quraysh, O you people of Quraysh, Walladhi nafsi biyadi, I swear by him that my hand or my soul is in his hand. Ma asbaha ahadun minkum ala dini Ibrahim ghayri. There is nobody today in Makkah who is still on the religion of Ibrahim except me. All of you have gone astray. I'm the only one who is still on the religion of Ibrahim. He said, Allahumma inni law a'lamu ahabbul wujuhi ilayka abadtuka bih. He said, Oh Allah, if I knew the best of ways of worshipping you, I will use that way to worship you. Walakinni la a'lam. But I don't know. He knew very well that the worshipping of idols was wrong. But then he didn't know how is he going to worship the Almighty Allah. The reason we are bringing these people up is that, wallahi, sometimes you might find a group of people that you might think that all of them are bad or evil. That's what you think, not knowing there are few amongst them who are good people. So, general blanketing people into one, name or one bottle or one box is not acceptable. So, making the saying 100%, no. As I told you the last time, a friend of mine that we studied together at the university in Niger, he was asking me, how is Islam like in America? And I told him, it's a different ball game altogether. The Masjid here, the people, you come to Fajr, I said, look at the freezing temperatures, but people come to Fajr for Salah. And it's a test of the Iman that the people have. People come, they come and pray, people help, they do their deen, they have challenges, but then Islam is very vibrant in America. This guy, Zayd ibn Amr, he went outside Makkah to travel and go and look for the religion that is best, because he realizes that these people in Makkah, they don't have anything to give him. He went to study Judaism, he didn't find it suitable. He went to study Christianity. He said it's the same thing that these people are doing in Makkah. They're still worshipping someone other than Allah. So he came back to Makkah, and then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is reported to have said that Zayd ibn Amr, on the day of Qiyamah, he is going to be resurrected as one ummah. He is going to enter Al-Jannah alone. He's going to enter Jannah alone. Because he alone is one ummah. He didn't worship any idols. And then he stayed true to what? To the religion of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam met him before he became a prophet. He, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, met this man. So this man died before the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam was made a prophet. And he was amongst those who didn't what? Who didn't worship idols.
So this Arakat ibn Nawfal, he was the cousin of the Ahmad.
No, this is Zayd ibn Amr.
Oh, Zayd.
This is Zayd ibn Amr. We are yet to come to Waraqat ibn Nawfal. So your question takes us to the next person, who is Waraqat ibn Nawfal. And most of us know of Waraqat ibn Nawfal, who was the cousin of Khadija, the wife of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from Ghar al-Hira, who come there, when he first saw the angel Jibreel, he came to her and he was telling her, Zammiluni, cover me. And then he explained to her what she was seeing, and then very smart woman, she realized that no, this is something different. So she consulted her cousin, Waraq ibn Nawfal, who was a Christian at that time. And then he had written, some pages of the Bible. He was also a writer. But then at that time that he met the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was so old that he has not even gone blind. So when the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained to him what he has seen, he told him that if what you have told me is true, that what you have seen is the namus that the Almighty Allah sends to His Prophet. Meaning He is the messenger that the Almighty Allah sends to His Prophet. And then he told him, if the Almighty Allah was to make me live longer, I'm going to strengthen you, I'm going to support you. But the Waraq ibn Nawfal didn't keep long, and then he died. There are some narrations that said that yes, he accepted Islam before he died. And most of these narrations are very strong that he had accepted Islam before he died. So Waraqat ibn Nawfal is the second person who, who didn't worship idols, but he accepted Islam. The third person is Qus ibn Sa'ida. Qus ibn Sa'ida, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam saw him in one market in Makkah, and then the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam narrated to the Sahaba what he heard him say. So it's like this man has come to the market and he was saying something. Let's listen to what he was saying. He said, Ya ma'shar an-nas. He said, oh you people, ijtami'u, come closer. فَكُلُّ مَنْ مَاتَ فَاتٍ. Anybody who is dead is gone. He's never going to come back. وَكُلُّ شَيْءٍ آتٍ آتٍ. Anything that is going to happen definitely is going to happen. This is deep tawheed. And this is deep, reliance upon the Almighty Allah. If you are dead, you're gone, you're not going to come back. So what does it mean? Make good use of the time that you're here. كُلُّ شَيْءٍ آتٍ آتٍ. Anything that is decreed for you to happen is going to happen. And then he told them, you have deep nights, the night is very, very long. The sky is in levels. The sea has these waves. The stars are shining. The mountains are strong. The rivers are flowing. He said, if you look into the sky, you see that there are lessons in there. He said, Mali aran nas yadhhabuna fala yarji'un. Why is it that I see people die to go to the akhirah, but they never come back? Your grandfather who is dead, did he come back? Aradu bil iqamati fa aqamu. Are they satisfied with the life that they found there? That is why they stay there. Am turiku fanamu, or that when we went to bury them, we left them there and they are sleeping there. Aqsama qis billahi qasaman la rayba fi. Inna lillahi deenan wa huwa arda min deenukum hadha. He said, I swear by the Almighty Allah. The Almighty Allah has a deen which is better than this one that you are on. He's telling the people of Quraysh. Ibn Abbas narrates a hadith that when the group of Abdul Qais came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he asked them about him, and then they told him that the man has died. So the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has an information about this man. Let's talk about the last one. Labid ibn Rabi'at al-Amiri. This guy Labid was a poet. And then in Jahiliyyah, he wrote a poem that was talking, bad about the Quran. Even that before that, no, that's not him. No, that's not Labid. That is Rabi'a. Sorry. Astaghfirullah. Labid ibn Rabi'a, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Asdaqu kalimatan qalaha sha'iru kalimati Labid, ala kulli shay'in ma khala Allahu batil." That anything other than Allah is not true. Anything other than Allah is not something that is true. So Labid was also amongst the people who didn't, worship idols in Jahiliyyah. So as we said earlier on, with all the wranglings going on, in Makkah and then in Medina, in the Arabian Peninsula of idol worshipping, there were people who always stood for the truth. And the lesson we can pick from here is that for us living in the West, with all this trouble that we find ourselves in, with all this haram that is going out, with all these, trials and tribulations and issues that is going on, we should always have it at the back of our minds that there is always hope for people who stand firm for the Almighty Allah. There is always a way out for people who stand steadfast for the Almighty Allah. It's tough. It's not easy. Especially the young men here in the Masjid. You go out there around the corner, there's someone doing drugs. You go around the corner, there's someone doing something wrong. Even on your phone, they're sending you all this haram marketing. It's not easy. The level of Iman should always be strong. Don't forget that this is a test and a trial from the Almighty Allah. The Almighty Allah is going to test us from all angles. We need to stand fast. And then don't forget, any moment you find yourself slipping, hurry up and then what? Get back onto your feet. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam admonishes us that وَأَتْبِئِ السَّيِّئَةَ الْحَسَنَةَ تَمْحُهَا. He said, كُنْ فِي الدُّنْيَا كَأَنَّكَ غَرِيبٌ أَوْ عَابِرِ السَّبِيلِ. Be in this dunya as if you are a stranger or you are a passerby. You are traveling from New York to Pittsburgh. You pass through Philadelphia, you just rest, you pray your zuhur, you eat, you move on. That's 30 minutes. You are not here in Philly to stretch your legs. You are here to just rest for a while and then move on. That is how you must take the dunya. Take the dunya as if you are here for a few time, for a small number of time, and then you're moving on. Put that at the back of your mind. The trials, the tribulations, the waves will come, whether you like it or not. In the idham al-bala, in the idham al-jazam, in the idham al-bala, the magnitude of the reward is in proportion with the magnitude of what? Of the test. When you finish high school, they don't give you PhD certificate. Do they give you that? No. You have to go through PhD courses to get a PhD certificate. So definitely in life, the tougher your tests, the greater the reward. So let's have that in the back of our minds. Let's have that in our hearts, that when we are a minority and things are going not well, not going in the direction that our religion states, we need to hold steadfast. Al-Khabbab ibn Arath came to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam when the persecution was tough, when the persecution was high. He said, Ya Rasulullah, why don't we pray for the Almighty Allah to give us success, or order us to go out there and fight the people? And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was under a blanket near the Kaaba, and the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sat up, and he told him, Ya Khabbab, those who came before you, a man will be tried and troubled in his deen. He will not leave his deen until they bring a saw, what is being used to cut wood. They bring a saw and place it on top of his head, and they tell him, leave your deen. He said, no, he's not going to leave the deen. And then they cut him into two until half falls this way and the other half falls this way. And he told him, relax, Ya Khabbab. This deen will reach where you have not even reached. This deen will reach where the sun rises and where the sun sets. The minority of Muslims in Makkah, and then the patience that they had, and then the determination that they had, and the struggling that they went through, is the result that we have Masjid across the world. You go to places that you can't even imagine, you find Masjid. You go into the Eskimo land, where it's always cold, always white, snowy throughout the year. They have what? They have Masjid. There's an imam on Facebook, I think Dr. Hakim or something like that. He's from Norway. He's called the traveling imam. You can Google him, the traveling imam. Some time ago in Ramadan in Norway, they were having sunlight for 6 months. It was time they were in Ramadan. And then they were being asked, how do you start your suhoor and how do you break your fasting? And then the ruling in the Sharia is that they use the nearest country or city next to them that has daylight and sunlight, daylight and night time. So that's what they are going to use. So one day he did a video. The time is 12 a.m., 12 midnight, but the sun was standing. Was there. And then they had gone for tahajjud and then they were going back home. So these are, yes, testing times for people or Muslims who are minorities anywhere in the world, whether it's in America, whether it's in UK, whether it's in Australia, wherever Muslims you find yourselves in the minority, going through all forms of, challenges with your deen, don't lose hope. This is some of the lessons we can pick from today's episode of monotheistic people being found in polytheist Makkah. With all the shirk going on in Makkah, with all the idol worship going on in Makkah, with all the alcohol going on in Makkah, with all these evil things going on in Makkah, there were people who were still, monotheist people, still standing on their feet. Wallahi, if you are the only Muslim in your neighborhood, maintain that Muslim identity, maintain that Muslim ideology. If you are the only Muslim in your class at school, don't join the bandwagon because everybody else is doing something wrong, so you're also doing it. No. If you are the only Muslim at your workplace, exhibit that Islamic character and trait. These people were not worshipping idols. They were there in Makkah, and they made the people of Makkah understand their position. We are not going to worship what you're doing. We do not believe in these idols. We live in times whereby the idols now are ideologies. People no longer bring stones to worship. No, it's ideologies. The tawaqeed and then the shirk now is ideologies. People's minds and thoughts. What they think. And we've got to the point whereby people think that their thinking capacity is what is going to guide them. So you find people just create and generate all forms of ideologies. I read on the internet sometime that some people, they feel that now they are dogs and cats, so they want to dress like dogs and cats. This is what you've got into now. Forget about the people who say they are men, but they don't want women, they want men. For them, we've passed that level. We've got to a level now that human beings, you sit down and you think that, no, I'm meow, I want to be a cat. That's what we've got into now. So we live in these ideologies. And it's the trouble of our time. It's the trouble of our time. If you realize idol worshipping in the world now is something of the past. Even those people in other, religions that do idol worship, they say no, they don't worship those idols. They are just symbols for them. What the world faces now is ideologies, not idols anymore. And we need to, safeguard ourselves to find the right filter. That is that is going to filter for us all these ideologies that we are seeing. Because if you don't prepare the mind on Tawheed and Aqidah in the time that we find ourselves in, wallahi, it's very, very dangerous. Part of the idols that we have now is people do not regard sin as anything. Even within Muslims. We think, oh, this is a sin. It's nothing. I do istighfar and then that's it. If I just do istighfar, it's okay. No. Who gave you the guarantee that you finish the sin and then you even do istighfar? There's nothing like that. Some people say, I'll pray when I'm 20. I'll pray when I'm 18. I'll start salah when I'm 18. You meet some teenage Muslims, 14, 15, 16. He wants to be a pro league player. But when you talk about salah, he says he's not 18 years. He's not an adult. That rule doesn't work in Islam. So people disregard sin. They see it as something easy, something normal. And this is all part of what? The distractions of shaitan. So as a minority that we find ourselves in this fast-moving world, wallahi, let's take lessons from these people who, even though he doesn't know, like the first person, Zayd ibn Amr, even though he doesn't know the way to worship the Almighty Allah, he realizes that what these people are doing is idol worship, is not acceptable. It's not acceptable. But then he doesn't know how he's going to worship the Almighty Allah. He even went out. He left Makkah to go to Syria to go and see if there is any religion there that makes sense to him, for him to use that religion to worship the Almighty Allah. So as we find ourselves here, wallahi, we don't have an excuse if you don't pursue the knowledge of our religion. If you don't go for the quest to study the religion, we don't have that excuse. Wallahi. Let's not make the money that we look for make us lose track of, studying the religion. Let's not make our businesses make us lose track of studying the religion. Let's not make our pursuit of secular knowledge make us lose track of what? Of studying the religion. The kids that we are giving birth to, we want them to be doctors, we want them to be engineers, we want them to be all these big shots so that they earn, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year for us to be comfortable. It is not haram, but don't forget, if they don't have the knowledge of the deen, with that, all those hundreds of thousands of dollars would rather be a curse and not a blessing. You need to mix that with that. Because you don't have an excuse. In other places in the world where there are Muslim majority nations or communities or societies, the community is there. So whether you want or not, the community has that influence on the thinking of the child. The school's curriculum is Islamic. It has that influence on the thinking of the child. The community has that influence on the thinking of the child. But you live in a community that is not like that. You live in a country that is not like that. People are free to profess whether they want to do, whatever ideologies they want to profess. If a human being tomorrow says he feels like he's a tree, he is allowed to do that. So you need to fine-tune the mindset of the young people, of yourself, within all these, waves that we find ourselves in. So today's lesson is specifically for us, those of us living in the West now, where we are in the minority, and the vast majority has values or customs or traditions that goes against what we have as Muslims. So we need to do a double work on what? On our ideologies, on our mentalities, on our thinking. Because it's not easy. And the Prophet Muhammad made this statement that it will get to a point in time whereby if a Muslim wants to be steadfast on his religion, you'll be seen as an extremist. Even within Muslims. So you are a Muslim, you're growing a beard. No, what's this beard? You have your nisfu sack, your pants are not, dragging on the floor, you're up there, they see you as an extremist. A sister is in her niqab, she's an extremist. Even within Muslims. Yeah. Muslims look at you and say, no, you are making that religion difficult. You are making that religion tough. Whereas you are just following the letter to the T. That's what you're doing. This is how the Prophet Muhammad lived with his Sahaba. So these are times whereby it's very difficult for us. And the Prophet Muhammad says it will get to a time whereby if you hold your religion firmly, it's as if you have fire in your hand. It's burning you. These are the criticism. You are passing through the airport, they stop you. You look suspicious. Me, when I'm traveling, even in Ghana, I'm stopped at the airport. Yes, get to the airport, and they say your name is in the system. So they need to do a security check on you. And then you spend about 10 minutes there before they say, oh, you are not free to go. And I asked one immigration officer, why is it that I'm in my own country, Ghana? Anytime I'm coming in, going out, your system want to waste my time. They said, oh, it's a name that they're looking for someone. I said, this is almost 2 years that you have been doing this. You've still not arrested that person. He said, no. I said, okay, no problem. Continue with your work. So it's not easy. It's difficult. Wallahi. And to the young men that we find ourselves in the Masjid, you find yourself here in America, it's not easy. It's not easy. Your friends are out there drinking. Your friends are out there gambling. Your friends are out there doing drugs. Your friends are out there, they go out late in the night, they come home around 4 a.m. or 5 a.m., they go on to sleep. But you have to wake up around 5 a.m. to prepare for Fajr. It's not easy. You have to come to the Masjid on time to come and pray. People are consuming riba and interest. They're making monies over there. But you know, people who go and gamble and then they make $2 billion overnight. Some people make $2 million in the casino overnight. And then you are there, a young man of 25, and you're still struggling to pay your bills. But then your colleagues who are not Muslims are out there, they're making money because they are into interest-based, businesses, into riba, into haram. But you are having to struggle and go through that. Don't worry. The Almighty Allah is there for you. And inshallah, you will see the dividends of that in this dunya before you even go to the akhirah. Let me give you one reason. The reason is that you always have tranquility in your system as a Muslim. Whatever you have, whatever you lost, whatever is coming, or whatever is leaving, you know it's through the will of the Almighty Allah. Understand that. And that is what Islam gives us. So don't look at what other people have, what other people are doing, or what other people find themselves in. Just look at who you are as a Muslim and the respite and the peace that Islam brings with when you look at the series of these people that we've spoken about. And don't forget, most of these people, they didn't meet the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as a messenger of the Almighty Allah. The Prophet saw only 2 or 3 amongst them, and it was only one who we have reported that he accepted Islam. But then their natural disposition makes them understand or despise what idol worship. So your natural disposition as a human being and as a Muslim living in America today with all these challenges going on around should let you know that this is wrong and this is right. So today, that's the essence of today's lecture. That is why I brought this group of people, that these were men in Makkah at a time whereby there was idol worship. Polytheism was, the order of the day. Without even the Almighty Allah sending a prophet at that time, their natural disposition told them that no, idol worship is wrong. So as a young man that you are up and coming, as Muslims, that we've had our training as Muslims, our natural disposition should tell us that this is wrong and this is right. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم. If you have any questions, you can switch it up.